call with Chris. He is an agent out of the Keller Williams Community Partners office. And Chris and I talked maybe 2 weeks ago, and specifically around Command and how he's using it and his team's using it. And so I connected Chris with Josh and said, hey, you two need to talk first off. And second off, I want to bring Chris on one of our leadership calls because your story really resonated with me. And I think it's really going to resonate with our leadership. So Josh, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you and Chris take the floor.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you kind of introduced Chris, which he's the operations manager for a team out of our community partners office, the May Hayfley team.
Yep, you got it. There it is.
All right. We worked on that for like 10 minutes on Friday. Always want to say people's names right. But what I really love about what Chris is doing is his approach to Command is what we all really should be looking at technology. It's trying to make sure that we are meeting in the middle, not just trying to take technology and force it into an agent's business, but to figure out how we can work hand in hand and fit that technology into their business. So without further ado, Chris, just kind of jump into it and kind of, tell me what you've told everyone.
Okay, so I kind of want to start this off with actually a bit of gratitude because people like me who are fairly new to Keller Williams, we were able to just walk into a mostly finished product that, we're standing on your shoulders there. And so when Josh and I were talking and kind of asked to talk about this is kind of my way to make that, to say thank you for that. And so for all this to make sense, I do need to give you a little bit of a background on me, but there's really kind of two big things I want everyone to understand. One, I am nothing special to this industry. My background is actually in data science and finance. So why that sounds like big important words, it has nothing to do with helping a buyer buy or sell a house. And second of all, I am probably the largest introvert you'll ever meet. So it's kind of funny that I have a real estate license. My story into real estate is a whole thing, but the short version is I have been in the industry since 2008, and I have been licensed since 2014. From 2008 to 2014, I was a executive level assistant to a high-powered real estate agent. And in 2014, we decided that we were going to take destiny into our own hands, and we were going to start our own brokerage, which sounds like a lot of fun. Promise you it's not. But that experience led me to being an operations manager for a startup. And how it was set up is that agent and his wife were ownerships, and I was the operations manager. We were very cash strapped, and my pay was not great. So I also had to go get my real estate license just to keep the wheels moving. My responsibilities there really boiled down to designing and implementing systems and success coaching of the team. So from 2014 to 2019, that was my role. And then in 2019, I stumbled upon this strange white book that Ryan Riddell sent me 3 copies of until I read it, called The One Thing. Thank you, Ryan. You actually did change my life, even though I follow you every step of the way. Hi. But my daughter was born in September, and I read The One Thing prior to her being born and said, you know what, I'm in the wrong path. So I called up a small team, James May, Devin Hayfley, the May Hayfley team. And I said, hi, I'd like to join your team. And by the way, I'm going to take the next 6 months off work. So my daughter is going to be born. I want to be home for the 6 months of her life for reasons that I still don't understand. They said yes. And so I did that. I was able to stay home with my daughter. It was an awesome experience. And then 6 months later, I came back. And if you're keeping score, that's the very beginning of the pandemic. And James and Devin approached me and said, now that you're back, would you like to be the operations manager? And if not, will you help us find one? And I thought, yeah, I'll do it. Why not? And so I spent 2 weeks with a gift. We already had an office. We already had a bullpen. Overhead was already paid for. My admin staff was already in place. And so I got to go and shop for technology. So prior to leaving the previous brokerage, I had about 3 years of experience with KV Core. And I'll tell you, anybody who works with KV Core for 3 years goes one of two directions. We either quit in 30 days because it's frustrating, or you get to know the development team real well. And so I did not want to go back to KV Core. So I called every corporate brokerage that would give me a Zoom link and just asked them about their technology. There are some other pieces of technology in our industry that are impressive, but I assure you, Command is the absolute best there is. I would think that we're at least 10 to 15 years ahead of KV Core, and I think KV Core is the second best here. So I was in Command for about 3 hours before I text our leadership team and said, hey, we're going to Keller Williams, guys. This is it. This is the solution. And this kind of leads me to the thing that I want to give back here is anybody who has done operations long enough knows that you can have the best technology in the world, but buy-in is the problem. And I, again, am no one special, but this is just something that I've developed over the years. And it's an onboarding process that when I bring on a new agent to our team, the very first thing I do after sending them to the market center, getting their Command logins and having them sit down with Don over the contract classes, we schedule a 3-hour interview process. And that sounds daunting, especially for an introvert, but I borrow very heavily from the MAPS model here of ask leading questions and listen intently. So the whole idea of this is it's actually a very simple idea. It's just a simple idea that I have taken very seriously for a very long time. And I always start that interview with only one of two questions in mind. If they are in the industry, I say, I'm going to ask them, tell me about your relationship with your best client. And if they are new to the industry, I'm asking them, tell me about your relationship with your best friend that you are not related to. So moms, sisters, doesn't count. And then I sit back and I follow the MAPS model of deep listening. At the end of these 3 hours, I'm looking for things like communication styles, timing, what's your schedule look like, what's your family look like, where are your goals at? And I've just found through the years of onboarding all of these agents that if you ask those questions too direct, you're putting yourself in a position that it is hard to tell you the truth because they don't know us from Adam, and all they see is our fancy offices, and they think that every real estate agent makes $300,000 a year. And so when you take this approach, I'm able to actually build a model. So for our second meeting, I sit down with them and I say, okay, these are the things that I think are true about you, and I would like for you to tell me if I'm right or wrong. And I dig into things like, you prefer to text rather than email someone. It really bothers you if you don't get a read receipt. It sounds to me like you probably have 5 hours a day to work, but they are between 10 and 3 or whatever that looks like. And I'm following the Chris Smith model. If you've ever read Never Split the Difference, Chris Smith, of I'm getting to the that's rights. So that is the first part of our second meeting. And then the second part of our second meeting is build what I call repeatable routines. Hot take, that's actually a SMART plan, but SMART plan sounds scary. So we call it repeatable routines. And we do this on paper first. And what I'm doing with this person is I'm breaking down every piece of the real estate transaction into a repeatable routine, because people like me who are introverts, we had no idea of how you guys can talk to people all day and like be Press McKissick, because I have no idea how you have that energy. And so these routines, they eventually get built out to things like open house repeatable routines. How do you handle a buyer, an active buyer, a not so active buyer? How do you handle a post inspection? How do you get a new listing? And then this is where I add in all of our Red Book models. I'm a firm believer in the Red Book as being the way. And so 33 touch programs and economic models, GPSs, and I'll even sometimes go as deep as the one thing models, if it seems appropriate. And I give that all to them on paper at the end of that meeting, and I send them home and I say, okay, here's your homework. I'm not asking you to import contacts into command. I'm not asking you to run your first Facebook ads. I'm asking you to go to the appropriate tabs and build out these smart plans. And so ultimately what this does is we achieve two things at the same time. When you set it up that way, a natural side effect is efficiency. We are building in efficiency. So when I have a new agent who's experienced in my coaching room, one of the things that they say to me often is, I get so much more done in such a less time. And it's because when we build our routines, we're building them in a vacuum. And we're unleashing them on the world after they're finished, not trying to do two things at once. And the second side effect is, I'm not asking them to buy into command. I'm asking command to buy into them. And because people like you have already done all the heavy lifting, command is ready to do this. And so one of the things Josh asked me is, what is something that you would want to say to all these people is, I would love the chance for you to see command through my eyes. And maybe another way of saying that is, I'd love to reintroduce you to command. And so I have we've made available on some slides. I have some of my personal smart plans, and we can go over those in a minute. But I kind of want to jump into a real world scenario that I think will answer more questions than it creates, at least. So this is kind of not what we talked about, Josh, sorry.
Sorry, man, it's all right. Go with it.
Let me tell you about last Friday. Last Friday was a normal day for me. I am a real estate agent who is on track to close about 75 deals this year, 75 units. And I had in the morning, just normal appointments. In the afternoon, I had some showings. At noon, I had a coffee date with Kevin, and I jokingly call it a date. It's a funny inside joke between Kevin and I. We do this every year because I have been following the 33 touch programs that long before I came to Keller Williams. And so when I had on Monday, I sat down in front of command and I followed my tasks. And when you do this correctly, you can honestly present to your agents. You log in command in the morning, do what your tasks say to do. Now you're done working for the day. And that because our smart plans all fire and build in tasks to do that. And so I had a task on Monday to text Kevin and line up coffee. So I texted Kevin and I lined up coffee. He said, awesome, Friday at noon. And I thought, I don't really know who Kevin is. No idea. I have a vague idea. He's somebody that I sold a house to probably 4-ish years ago. And I don't have to know that because command is powerful. And so I got to the coffee shop about 15 minutes early, sat down and let my past self through command tell me about Kevin. Turns out Kevin's last name is Durbin. His wife is named Bethany. He has a daughter named Savannah. He has a dog named Joey. And one of the pieces that we use command for, and you have to do a little digging, but you can get to the point where you add your own cues. And so one of the things I add is from a book that's a second level conversation cues. And so this gets us past the small talk and into what's real. I made a note that Kevin is in a band. He plays guitar. He's an advertising executive. And one of the big important things when we bought this house was he wanted a gun range at his house. He needed 2 acres for a long range rifle target shooting. Now, don't let the Norman Rockwell behind me fool you. I've never shot a gun before in my life. I have no idea. No idea what that is. I can't talk intelligently to it at all, but I have an awesome maps coach who has really worked with me on power listening. And so we sat down, we got through the initial small talk, but instead of saying, how's your wife? I said, how's Bethany? Instead of how your dog, how's Joey? And this level of connection is what the power of command actually is that to the consumer, to Kevin, I'm his best friend. But remember, on Monday morning, I didn't know his last name. And if I didn't have his Facebook profile saved on his command profile, I wouldn't be able to pick Kevin out of a crowd. And so we get to talking. I ask how the gun range thing is going. And he said, man, every time I use that gun range, I think about you, because I remember it took us a long time to find the house. I made you show me like 30 houses. And, you know, going through command, I know that I actually probably only showed him like 7, but perceived value. And to make this happen. And I was like, cool, okay. You know, I don't know anything about guns. And he's like, you know, let me invite you out to my house tonight, and we're gonna shoot some targets. That's what we're gonna do. So I have a call with Josh this afternoon, and then I'm gonna go to Kevin's house. Oh, and by the way, his best friend is there, and so you know, they give me a quick safety rundown. I shoot it once. I'm terrified of the loud noises that it makes, and don't understand why anyone does this for fun, but here I am, and he introduces me to his best friend. And he said, oh, hey, this is the guy I told you about. And I said, yeah, I'm Kevin's realtor. His best friend said, okay, so I work at Procter & Gamble, and I'm on a permanent work from home situation. I'd love a house like this. You think you can find me one? And I jokingly said, well, you need to call this loan officer and get pre-approved first. And long story short, Kevin made the introduction. He has a $500,000 house to sell, and he's pre-approved at $750,000 and is now in contract already on a $500,000 house. So that hour of coffee on Friday is $30,000 of GCI for me, because command, just because command. And so when we can get past the past of command, and I've heard that it was pretty brutal, let's be honest. But when we get to a point that we understand what this is again, let me reintroduce you to command. Let's play pretend for a second. In a pretend world, every agent is using command like this. Every agent has Kevin's sitting on their schedules on Fridays. People like you take this, pass it through your logic filters, take it back to your market centers, and share it with your ops, your teams, your agents. And we all start making coffee dates or whatever we're doing. And then when we get that far, I no longer have to interview for a listing because it's a no-brainer. Keller Williams are where our friends work. Keller Williams are where the quality agents work. All of a sudden, we're not talking about Zillow or Redfin or what anybody else is doing. The Remaxes and the Sipsy clients of the world aren't important to us, because they associate the fact that I work at Keller Williams with I'm going to be their agent for the rest of their life. P.S. That's what I want. And then we can single-handedly in 12 months raise the bar of what it is to be a real estate agent and what it is to be a Keller Williams agent. And then we don't have to have recruiting conversations. They're going to come to us. We don't have to have, these long discovery 33 touch programs, because they're going to just come to us because they know we're friends. And they're going to leave behind the Zillows of the world, because why would we do that? And so when I'm interviewing back to choose our technology piece, and I see this power, that's, as cheesy as it sounds, that's why I'm betting on red, is because this power is literally sitting in front of every agent in your office, and their number one complaint is, well, it was broken once. And that's it. Like, we have it, it's done. And all we need to do is we need to show our agents what it means to be a Keller Williams agent. And we don't have to ask them to buy in. They're going to buy into it themselves, because they're going to create it themselves.
And I think that's the powerful part that I really enjoy talking with you, Chris, is, and kind of dig a little deeper into that you get buy-in because you're really taking command. And you're not just saying, use these 12 smart plans that we've already built. You're actually spending the time with the agent to build that smart plan that fits their communication style. I mean, and you're continuing to get great adoption from that, correct?
Oh, yeah. So, that's kind of my second thank you to everybody in the room here is I was able, because of what Command can do, I'm able to triple my personal production. My personal production this year is projected to be higher than my entire team was last year. My rainmakers are, I have one rainmaker who is older and his value exchange is I want to be semi-retired. He will be able to stop working at the end of June and still make his goals. My second rainmaker is on the path to sell 80 houses this year. I walked in with one full-time agent and one part-time agent in my bullpen. I now have 3 full-time agents, 2 part-time agents, and 3 brand new agents at Hondros. And I'm not asking them to buy into anything. I'm asking Command to buy into them. And that's the magic and wonder that is Command, that they don't have, we don't even talk about them buying in. It's just, they just do it because it makes sense, because technology in this industry has gotten crazy with bells and whistles. And I think that our leadership here at Keller Williams looked at that 3 years ago and said, bells and whistles might get an agent to come, but they're not going to get an agent to stay. And when Mr. Patel there was talking about agent retention, I just thought, man, this is it. Like, this is the reason why that we are on a trajectory that in 5 years in the Miami Valley, there are going to be real estate agents and there are going to be Keller Williams agents. And I'm on the right side of that finally.